Hey everyone, welcome to today's show. Today is a special show. Today is April 15th. It is the 108th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, and we are here to honor all of the lives lost in that horrible, horrible accident. I hope that you all are having a wonderful morning and that we can take this time to remember those who have been lost um, while we enjoy some time together. Waiting on some people to join us this morning. It's early, I know. I think we're all like, oh my gosh, it has been a rough morning for people, I think. I didn't sleep well. Um, So, Surfer Girl, welcome in. How are you doing this morning? Glad that you're here with us. This morning we are going to be talking about the Titanic. It is the 108th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic. It actually, for Central Time, it actually happened about 10:50 last night. The final sinking, but um, it is the memorials and stuff are typically on the 15th, just because of when, like the timing, like for the location that it's in, it would be that timing, and it would have been this morning. But yep, it happened at about 10:50 last night Central Time. I was actually still awake, so I took a moment last night to say a silent prayer for the dead. Um, I tried to make it like, give some reflection and thoughts and things for, I can't imagine what they must have been thinking and feeling, and the wives with the children getting on the lifeboats, and the children are scared, and the wives, um, they knew that they were never going to see their husbands again. Um, they say that women's intuition is a fake thing. It's something that um, women use to, oh, well, I knew it from my women's intuition. It's a gut feeling. It's a gut feeling of being scared and terrified, and um, women's that gut feeling. I think everyone has it. Moms, I think, have it some more just because it helps them innately know when their kids are lying. But those women knew. They're like, we are never seeing our husbands again. It was such a scary and terrifying experience for all involved. Welcome in Meredith with the Doofily crew, Tony with Phantasmic Chronicles, Jenny with JLB Nerdy, Melissa Sternberg. Welcome in everyone. If you are just watching and don't want to chat, that's fine. I'm glad that you are hanging out with us this morning as we talk the Titanic. So as I was mentioning, according to the timeline of the Titanic and the sinking, um, and the time where the ship was, and according to where I'm at in Kansas, the Titanic actually officially sank at 10:50 um, in Kansas. Pipe 767, welcome in. Glad that you're here with us this morning as we have a remembrance of the Titanic. So I pulled up an article from the BBC, which is the British Broadcasting Network. So I thought I'd just read a little bit. At 11:50 p.m. on Sunday, April 14th, 1912, the Titanic was just 4 days into its first voyage when it struck an iceberg. But how long did it take for that ocean liner to actually sink? So the timeline goes 11:40, the Titanic hits the iceberg. Within minutes of hitting the iceberg, the boat begins to take on thousands of tons of seawater through holes in the hull. The man that designed the ship, who was Thomas Andrews, is on board and goes to look at the damage. He tells the captain that the ship is going to sink. So they knew from the moment that ship hit, there was no saving it, which is a terrifying thought for not only Thomas Andrews and for the captain of the ship. They knew that there was going to be lives lost, and there was not one single thing that they could do about it. There was nothing they could do about it. Michelle the Quilter, welcome in. Pipe 767, please speak in English, otherwise I will have to time you out. I don't speak Spanish, and so because it doesn't translate in here, I do have to ask you to do that. Please use some sort of translator. I'm just going to go in real quick and delete your comment. Just please use a translator for English, please. Appreciate that. Meredith says, I had a relative that died on the Titanic. He was coming home visiting his mother in England. His name was James Veal, second-class passenger. He was from Vermont. Oh, wow, Michelle. So this is like a really special, like a really important day for your family history. That's real. Okay, bye. Not a problem, Pipe 767. That's just the rules. I have to be able to know what you're saying. So I know that Surfer Girl said something. Said she wanted to be able to do the experience in Orlando. Well, I have done the experience in Branson, and it's very moving. It's very, very solemn. It really, really makes you think. Vicky G, welcome in. How are you doing, my friend? So for the captain of the ship and for Thomas Andrews, it had to be such a devastating thought because they knew right off the bat how many lives were going to be lost. However, it took them 45 minutes to lower the lifeboats. 12:30 a.m. on April 15th, 1912, the lifeboats were lowered. The captain, Edward J. Smith, orders the lifeboats to be lowered. After 10 minutes, passengers start leaving the ship, with women and children taking the first spots. There are enough spaces for 1,000 passengers, but some of the boats are sent off half full. How we know that the lifeboats were half full to begin with. And it's so sad to think that so many more lives could have been saved. Family lines ended with the Titanic. Some very notable men died on the Titanic, and so family lines ended because back then, it would if I had been on the Titanic and I had I wouldn't have been able to keep and go on as a single woman in 1912. That would have been unheard of. I would have been pretty much considered a whore and a prostitute to be doing that. And so the only thing to do was to get remarried and change your name, and family lines were just ended, and it's so incredibly sad. Yeah, Meredith just sent me his picture in Messenger, and this is her relative who passed away on the Titanic. So today is a very important day in her family history because they lost. To know the history of the Titanic is one thing. To actually have a family member who was on the Titanic and passed away, or was on the Titanic and rescued, is a completely different part of history. So at 2:10 a.m., the ship's lights go out. The Titanic's bow, which is the front end of the boat, is now completely underwater, causing the back of the boat to lift up. 18 of the 20 lifeboats have been lowered, and all of the lights on board finally go out. I just want you to think about that for a second. You are on one of the last two lifeboats of the Titanic. We're going to close our eyes. You are on a lifeboat, one of the two last lifeboats off of the Titanic. And as you're being lowered down to the ocean, to this cold subarctic freezing water, and all of a sudden, the lights go out. I don't know about you guys, but that sends absolute shivers of terror down my back, and all I'm doing is visualizing it. It's I guess I've got goosebumps. I've got I feel like I'm having a little bit of an anxiety attack, and all I'm doing is sitting here visualizing it, not including the people who actually lived that. Tony says, have you ever read that they believe that there was a fire in one of the coal holes while in dock that could have caused the weakening of where the ship was torn open? Tony, I've read a lot of things about the Titanic over the course of the years. I am very much a Titanic nerd. I've read all of the conspiracy theories from where the Titanic actually wasn't the Titanic. It was actually another ship that had been put into port posing as the Titanic because the Titanic actually wasn't ready to go. And it had been a hole where the iceberg actually struck, had been repaired. I've read about they think a fire happened. Orlando Mike, hello, how are you doing today? Griswold, Danny, how are you? Glad that you guys could make it here with us this morning. So 7 minutes after the lights go out on the Titanic officially breaks in two. The back of the boat gets pushed further out of the water. The ship's hull just wasn't strong enough to maintain the pressure, and it snaps. I can't even tell you, I don't want to imagine the terror that the people on that ship who were left were feeling. I don't even want to imagine it because I don't think the best horror writer, I don't think the worst horror movie that you could even possibly think of could portray that much fear, anxiety, dread into a movie. Because unless you live something, if you lived through it, you will never be able to 100% correctly depict it. I will say that James Cameron did a fantastic job with the 90s movie Titanic. All of the actors and actresses did a fantastic job, but they were here. You can't even see my hand of where the actual feelings are or were. I don't think anyone ever could know. Orlando Mike says, I'm a history buff, so I love researching the history of the Titanic. When I lived in Boulder, Colorado, Molly Brown had a house there. Yes, Molly Brown does have a museum in Boulder, Colorado. I've actually been there. So, yep. There is a massive rumor, and I believe that there has been enough people that have presented fact, in quotes, fact, about the two, because being sister ships, they were all, from what I have researched, and Orlando, Mike, you can tell me if I'm remembering my research wrong. There was not that much of a difference between the Olympic and the Titanic. They were supposed to be pretty much mirror images of each other. And so when the Titanic wasn't ready, the Titanic actually was not, the rumor goes, this is a rumor that Orlando Mike is speaking of and that I mentioned. The rumor goes that the Titanic was not actually ready to go yet. It was not completed. There were things that needed to be done. It had not had its inspections. Whatever it wasn't ready to go. They overnight repainted the name Titanic on the Olympic. And so the Olympic actually had been into port because it had had a fire in the hull, which it was in port to be fixed. when the Titanic wasn't going to be ready to go, they painted over the Olympic and painted the Titanic on it and sent the Olympic out as the Titanic. Then when it hit the iceberg, it hit in just the right spot at just the right angle that it caused that repair damage to falter. It wasn't strong enough. It wasn't ready to be going anywhere. But it was either cancel this big massive event and or send out this other ship in place of the Titanic. Linda Mac says, not to mention the White Star Line bought slugs, which are rivets made of iron and copper, which make them weaker. So when the ship struck the berg, the weak bolt heads started popping off like corks. Yep, that's part of that whole thing too. So, like I said, this is actually a pretty massive rumor that's actually been over the last probably 50, 60 years, it's actually been gaining some pretty decent traction. You can actually Google it and do your own research and come up with your own theories on that. It falters somewhere in between a rumor and a conspiracy theory, but it's got so much traction and it's got so much factual because no one was there 108 years ago in the shipyard. We don't have any type of information on it. But there's enough information from like eyewitnesses and things that they have found and like papers that they have uncovered that it actually more leans towards the rumor than the conspiracy theory. So I suggest that you do your research on that part because it's actually really, really interesting. Noah, hello. Peek into Super Channel, hello. Lori's Crochet Corner 2, welcome in. Glad that you're here. So 2 minutes after the Titanic breaks in two, so this all happens within like a 10-minute time frame. 2:10 a.m. the ship's lights go out. 7 minutes later, the Titanic broke in two, and 2 minutes later, at 2:19, the bow of the ship begins to sink. The front of the boat disappears beneath the surface of the ocean, and the back half soon follows afterwards. And then 2:24 a.m., the Titanic reaches the bottom of the ocean. The front half of the ship reaches the bottom first. 2 minutes later, the back half of the Titanic joins it on the floor of the Atlantic. The wreck of the ship is still there today. I know it has to do with the movie and is therefore fiction, but Mythbusters said had Rose removed her life vest and put it around the door, it could have supported her and Jack. Yeah, that is from the movie Titanic. I know that Mythbusters has done a lot with the Titanic, and so that is actually a very interesting piece of information. Yeah, Jenny, if you really like history and you are interested in the Titanic, I really encourage you to research some of the rumors and the conspiracy theories that are out there because some of them are actually really interesting. And they've done, if you are on History Channel, today is going to have, and National Geographic and stuff like that today, will have tons of stuff on the Titanic today. Even online, we'll probably have some stuff to watch or research if you wish to do that. So, and there are, as far as I am aware of, there, and if you know of another specific one, let me know. There are 3 Titanic museums in the U.S. That I'm just meaning U.S. I know there's many overseas. There's one kind of in every port that the Titanic stopped in on its way before it finally left for the U.S. Excuse me. I have one of the websites setting here ready for me to show you, but I need to be able to share my screen with you. Here we go. Oh, so this is the website for the Titanic. This is the one for Branson. It is a sister museum with one in Pigeon Forge. As you can see, there's one in Branson, one in Pigeon Forge. But what we are going to do is, there used to be, here it is. So with everyone being home right now, if you go to the website, titanicbranson.com, you can see it up, in the bar. You can see that there's a ton of different educational aspects to the Titanic. You've got everything from arts and social studies, science, geography, math. There's a scavenger hunt. There's a religious aspect of it. Homeschooling things. You can boarding passes, letter to an educator, other types of resources, and you could check out if you need information. You can contact them. There's a storytelling with First Class Maid Jody. That's a really interesting. It's kind of fun to watch. There's a virtual tour of the Titanic, so we're actually going to click on that. This is the Titanic Virtual Field Trip Part 1. I don't want to get any copyright disclaimers because I clicked on it to do a virtual tour with you guys. But I suggest you just take the virtual tours of the Titanic. And there's an educational guide if you want to make it like a school project. Griswold's just taking a break before a work call. So my friend has been to all the museums and they said the Vegas one is the best. They actually went to Ireland at one of the shipyard. Oh, yep, there's one in Vegas as well. I forgot about the one in Vegas. The one in Vegas is fairly new. The ones in Branson and the ones in Pigeon Forge are if you have never been to a Titanic museum, I can't even start to express how to feel. You walk in, and just to note, there's no photography, there's no videoing, which is why if there's any photography or videoing done, it's done by professionals. These are artifacts that have been brought up that are hundreds of years old. I equate them to when you're at an aquarium and they say, please don't use flash photography on the little seahorses because a flash can kill them. I equate them. So pretty much it's the same with the pieces of the Titanic. When you go through the museums, it's a overwhelming feeling. It's an overwhelming feeling of sadness. There's an overwhelming feeling of fear. There's an overwhelming feeling of it's like if you've ever had an anxiety attack or you know someone who has and has described it to you, it feels like something is pushing on your chest and you can't take a breath. It sometimes feels like how I start feeling right before I start getting into an asthma attack. There's this pressure, like right here on your sternum, and it's like you cannot get a breath, and it's overwhelming. It really truly is just overwhelming. If your kids have shown an interest in the Titanic, I really suggest I understand where you're coming from, Jenny. It will make you super sad. But that's why there's us. That's why there's the people like Orlando Mike and myself. There's the Meredith from the Do Philly crew. We're here to tell their stories. And that's exactly what these museums do. They present it in the most respectful way possible. That they are, it's, here we go. This is what I was wanting to find. They present it in a way that is not, it's not, it's not just like, they present real facts. They present, here's what happened. It doesn't matter what some so-and-so's grandmother's niece's fourth cousin says. Here's what the fact is. I'm going to pull up this photo, and then I'm going to, one of the rooms in the museum in Branson is a music room. And this is what you see when you go in. These men are the musicians of the Titanic. These men played until they could play no more. They are considered the true heroes because when everyone else was running, screaming, panicking, they stayed calm, they stayed collected, and they played. I think they not only played for the people on the ship, but they played for the people that had left in the lifeboats. They played for the families that they would never see again. They played for each other. They played for themselves. And they played for us. I think these men knew that this story would continue to be told. This was such a catastrophic event that they knew their story would continue to be told. And that is why there is a whole room dedicated to them. If you have never been in this room, it is actually one of the creepiest rooms in the museum, to me. I don't think it really matters what the final song they played was. I think it just matters that they played. If you have ever seen an antique portrait like these are, the eyes follow you guys. From the moment you walk in that room to the moment you sometimes kind of even look backward, and it's almost like the eyes of those portraits are moving. It is the creepiest thing in the world. My grandma has a portrait very similar to this. And Meredith, I don't know if you just have the little photo that you sent me or if it's like a big painting on your wall, what exactly it is. But if it's a big painting, you might be able to attest to this. That style of portrait, when it was done, was so lifelike. The eyes really seem to follow you. And my grandma has a portrait that was done about the same time as these. And I refuse to go in the particular bedroom that portrait was hanging in. I was probably maybe 6 or 7. I could have been a little older, I could have been a little younger. The Croatian Dutch welcome in. I needed something out of that room. And my grandma was busy. And she's like, Lena, you're just going to have to go in there and get it. I mean, she understood my fears. She understood, but she's like, if you want it, I'm busy. I mean, literally, she was elbows deep into making dinner. So there was no way she was going to stop and go get whatever. I think it was I wanted my crayons and coloring books or something that was in there. And guys, literally, I walked up to the door of the room, I laid down, and I army crawled into the room underneath where this portrait was, popped up, grabbed him, laid on the floor, and scooted out of the room with it because these these eyes just follow you. And I'm creeping out Jenny. Cynthia, Candy Mom 15, welcome in. Orlando Mike, most of them do now. Let me see if I can find another one here because I'm on the Titanic Museum website and they have media photos, and that's what I'm showing you guys right now is the media photos. I can't just like do a slideshow of them because they're individual photos. Let me, I don't want to do that one because that's got kids on it. I recommend you guys go to the Titanic museum website because there is some really there's the picture that I wanted to show you, but there's I guess it is a media photo, so all right, we'll do it. Let's see what happens. Okay, there is a kids interactive area, and it's Experience the Slipping of the Titanic. And you can actually see where it starts and where it gets a little steeper and where it's almost up and down. And you can actually walk on these, as you can see the kids are doing in the media photos, to try to hold on. And there's also, I don't know if there's a photo of it, you can actually stick your hand in ice water that would be the same temperature that the water was that some of those people were just bobbing around in and froze to death in the water. Let's see. I'm going to do this photo. Stop share. It is cold here too. I have the furnace on and I have my little floor furnace here. One of the things that was just absolutely breathtaking to me is that you actually get to walk up the grand staircase. Like I said, there's no photos in the museum, but they do have a green screen at different spots that you can have that they green screen in, like that you on the grand staircase and stuff. So she should have made room for Jack. Yeah, exactly, Orlando Mike. I can't imagine the horror of watching someone fall or having someone fall on you and people lost their grip and either fell into the water or fell onto the ship. We have to remember that this all happened like starting at 2:10 a.m. on the documented time from there, and from 2:10 a.m. to 2:24 a.m. That's 15 minutes, guys. 15 minutes. The majority of this catastrophe happened in 15 minutes. $15 minutes. 15 minutes, guys. One of the worst catastrophes in the world began and ended in 15 minutes. I don't know about you, but that is one of the most sobering things to think about. It's kind of like a car wreck. Happens like that. $15 minutes. But is this not a beautiful, beautiful staircase? If you are in the Branson area or in the Pigeon Forge area, I really recommend that you go tour their museums. I know that Orlando has a Titanic Museum, and I'm going to pull up that website next. It's called TitanicOrlando.com. It is the Titanic Experience. I have not been to that one. It is on a bucket list of things that I'd like to do. I would like to go to Ireland because one, I am Irish. I'm a good Irish girl. My last name is O'Connor, or maiden name was O'Connor. So, you know that I want to. I'm a good Irish girl, but I'm trying to see if there's a whole lot of differences. From what I understand about the staircase here is they actually were able to get blueprints to recreate it, because a lot of the staircases, I'm looking at I'll show you the website here for Orlando. It is the exact same staircase. So I think, if I remember correctly, they were able to find blueprints and recreate these. They have authentic artifacts. You can do like a dinner theater at all of them, but this is the one in Orlando. So typically, last night there would have been a first class dinner and reenactment, but of course there wasn't. You get a boarding pass to find out, and at the end you find out if you live or die. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean you lived. Just because you were a gentleman does not mean that you died. And then Titanic Museum, Las Vegas. Yeah. One of the things that I think we forget about is that similar to like the Holocaust, the Titanic survivors really never talked about it. People are like, oh, well, my grandma was a Titanic survivor, but she never would talk about her experience. That is because for a lot of them, they never spoke about it because they felt uncomfortable. They didn't understand why they lived. Why did they live when so many others died? I'm working on it. My computer. There we go. The Titanic exhibit in Vegas is at the Luxor Resort on the Strip. So if you are going to Las Vegas, definitely make sure to pop in and take a look. Las Vegas is also on my bucket list of places that I'd like to go visit someday. So let me see here. Go ahead and share screen again. I'm pretty sure Prince Charming Dev did a dinner. I think you are right. I think he did as well. So here is the website for the one in Vegas. They show the Titanic is super close, and it looks like that is all they're going to let us see. Okay, cool. So there's not a whole lot to the website for Vegas. Pretty much probably because it's in a casino. Very good point, Orlando Mike. Just because you're in first class didn't mean you lived either. Proof that no matter how rich you are, how important you are in society, you are just as likely to die as the person next to you. Pretty much. That's pretty much exactly what it is. When and this one of my I can't even talk today, guys. I can't function. I did not sleep well last night, and so I'm like um my grandparents always had their wedding anniversary as kind of a family reunion, and like we loved doing those murder mystery puzzles. Um, and one that she found was a Titanic themed one. And what I really liked about it is they really tried to keep it true to how, like, the gist of it was that, and I need to I need to go to my grandma's and find that puzzle again because I really want to do it. But it's two 500-piece puzzles in one. And of course, I'm not going to go right now because I don't want to potentially expose my Mimi to something. Um, but there was two puzzles in one, and you had to separate the two puzzles and put them together. I'm like, oh my gosh, when we're done, I remember distinctly looking at my sister-in-law Christine and going, when we are done with this, we are bagging these separately because I am not doing this again. And she laughed and goes, agreed. But the gist of the story was that there were two twin sisters, and the one sister what had been courted by an American, and he had bought her and her sister passage on the Titanic to come over, and they would get married and she would help raise his daughter because he was a widow, and the sister was going to be a nanny to the daughter and look for a spouse herself. Um, so the sister who was engaged it's kind of like a similar of the Titanic movie. The sister who was engaged um, fell in love with a third class passenger, and she died down in third class. And so the sister, the twin, put on all of her jewelry, put on one of her sister's dresses, and got in a lifeboat. And on her she went to America and married the gentleman in her sister's place, never spoke a word about it until they were getting ready to have their first child. And so the puzzle ended, but there was like 4 chapters, almost like this little novella, after the end of the puzzle was answered. And she's like, I have something to confess to you. And the husband's like, what do you mean you have something to confess to me? She's like, I'm not who you think I am. And he goes, you're a wonderful mother to our daughter. You are having another child. What more do I need to know? And she goes, I'm not who you think I am. And she proceeds to tell him that she's not the sister that he fell in love with, and what happened on the Titanic. And he's like, I knew from the moment I brought you home that you weren't the sister that I was engaged to, but you ended up being so much more. So I've always been, I think that puzzle and doing so much research on the Titanic after that really helped spear my love and appreciation of the Titanic. I'm gonna grab something real quick. Yes, actually, Orlando, Mike, I have seen those, and it is very, very accurately done. Whoever did those did a very, very nice job of making sure to keep accuracy in mind when they were making that game. Ouch! Sorry, guys. I literally hit my knee on my desk. I was trying to pull out. Griswold talked about the boarding passes, and I have mine from when we went to Branson, and I wanted to grab that. Okay, I'm back. So I've got a couple things to show you. One of the things, this is a board game. It's called Titanic. I was in 4-H. I live in an agricultural area. It's got dust all over it. You can tell the last time I pulled it out probably was last year on today's date, because Sam and I play it once a year. Whew, very dusty. See you, Meredith. Have a wonderful day. I actually have 2 copies of this. One copy is at my parents', and one copy I have, because I found the other copy at another thrift store. I found the first copy at a military thrift store when I was with my parents, and I fell in love with the board game. It's a lot of fun. If you've never, I would suggest going to eBay and looking for it. Mike Wheeler, hello, welcome in. I suggest going and looking for it and seeing if you can find it. It's very interesting. But I really, really liked Lady Jamers, welcome in. I really liked this board game. And I liked it so much. Like I said, I was a 4-H girl. I decided to do my summer booth at the county fair on the Titanic. This is the collector's edition, so it's going to look a little different. But literally, you go around the boat. This is the boat. This is the board game portion. You've got creepy looking bellhop coins. I've always thought he reminded me of the bellhop from Tower of Terror. You get little passports in the game. There's gossip cards. The instructions on how to play are actually modeled after the pamphlet that they were given when they were welcomed aboard. There's radio telegrams, there's all kinds of things. If you can find this board game, it's a really, really fun game to play. But I really enjoyed this game so much that Amy with AJC Magic, welcome in. I based my booth on it at the county fair and took first place. And I think my judge is a little more prone to pick mine, because she's like, the first thing she said was, oh my gosh, I love the Titanic. I love doing research on the Titanic. And I just thought to myself, I've nailed this. I'm like, oh, the poor other people in this category. I just beat you and you have no idea. But what Griswold was referring to, when you go to any of the Titanic museums, you are given a passport. It tells you who you were. So when Sam and I went, I was first class passenger Alice Fortune. I was 24. My destination was Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. And that gives you information about the character. And I will read you the information about my character, and then I will read you the information about Sam's character. Let's just say I was forewarned that I would be in danger every time I traveled on the sea. A strange little man in Cairo, Egypt prophesied as much. He said he saw me adrift in an open boat and that I would lose everything but my life. Very odd, I thought. Not at all the reading I would have wanted. So obviously Alice Fortune believed in prophecies and fortune telling, and she used them to predict her future. I was engaged to be married and would have liked a hint of what married life held for me. So apparently she was unsure about her married life and wanted some help. And she said, my name is Alice Elizabeth Fortune. I have been traveling abroad with my mother and father and 3 siblings on a European tour. It was grand, but now that we are in the open sea headed home to Canada, I suddenly remembered the warning I was given. On the 4th night out, I wasn't so sure. My father had secured 3 adjoining cabins for our family, so when Titanic struck the iceberg, we were able to quickly gather together. At first we thought it was a drill, but on deck we learned the truth. I placed my hope in the mystic's last words. You will lose everything but your life. He had been right so far. What I lived to see his prophecy come true. And then at the bottom it says, the Fortune family of 6 had everything to live for, but survival wasn't in the cards for all of them. You'll find their fates linked together by name on the Titanic Memorial Room wall. And then Sam was a first-class passenger named Isidore Stratus. Not a very famous name at all, right? His age was 67. It says, I'm Isidore Stratus. It took 23 years, but in 1896, my brother Nathan and I finally got full ownership of Macy's department store. My wife Ida and I are returning from Europe, where we visited family in Germany, relaxed at our favorite spas, the French Riviera, Paris, and London. Since boarding Titanic, we've enjoyed socializing with the other first-class passengers. My life has been good, full, and satisfying. I raised good children, served as a member of Congress, and was a trustee of various financial and I can't talk sometimes. Philanthropic institutions. I know I pronounced that wrong. However, my greatest love was reserved for Ida. After Titanic hit the iceberg, I watched as Ida refused to board the lifeboats. She gave up a seat to Ellen Bird, her maid, then removed her fur coat, handed it to Ellen, and said, I won't be needing this anymore. I couldn't persuade Ida to board a lifeboat. For more information about this famous couple, visit the Strauss Historical website at strausshistoricalsociety.org, and you can read our story, the autobiography of Isidore Stratus, or Strauss. They both died. She would not leave his side. That's what marriage is you don't leave each other in a time of hardship. Inspired John, welcome in. Glad that you're here. So this has just been a stream to remember those who were lost. There were over 2,000 people who died in that horrific accident. And I know that some days that seems like such a small number compared to World Trade Center, current events, but each catastrophe deserves to have time to reflect and be remembered. Where would we be today if some of these families had lived? Where would we be if some of these family lines just hadn't been sliced? It's like this piece of paper. I need that piece of paper. It's like this tissue. I don't like these tissues because they're hard. They remind me of sandpaper, and they hurt my nose. It's like this piece of tissue paper. Looking whole, it's great. But like the Titanic, can't even hear. You get the point. It all of a sudden can change in an instant. So today, on the 108th anniversary, I don't know if you want to call it anniversary, memorial, however you want to term it. With everything else going on in the world, I know that some people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we're still in the house and my kids are driving me crazy and I don't know what to do. Grab up the Titanic Museum, Branson, or Pigeon Forge website. Like I showed you at the beginning, there's a lot of educational things that you can do. If you do homeschooling for religious purposes, there's even a religious aspect to the Titanic. It talks about the Titanic Bible. I actually got to see one of the Bibles that was preserved from the Titanic. It was given to from one of the men on the Titanic to a woman in the lifeboat to deliver to his wife because he knew he would not see her again. And when they brought it in, they just opened it and let it open on its own. They did not pick where it opened to. And I'm not going to tell you what it opened to because I want you guys to go and look. If you are near the Branson area, we are roughly about 6 hours away. It's a pretty decent road trip. I suggest that you go take a trip once this is all over to one of the Titanic museums and take some time to do some living history. I'm going to do some self-promotion now. For those of you who are new to the channel or may not know, I actually, before all of this catastrophe happened, I actually was hired as a travel agent. So if you want to book some sort of trip, and you would like some help doing that, I would be happy to help you book a wonderful trip. Um, Noah, no worries. Be safe shopping. Be safe, Jenny. I'm actually getting ready to end this myself. Orlando, Mike, I'm sure that you can find one on TV. If not, I'm sure there's something on YouTube. Um, Guys, take a moment. You know, give a thought to those whose lives were lost on the Titanic. So, with that, I wish you all a wonderful day. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask if you need to go out, and we will see you tomorrow with another edition of Craftily Distancing with PSV. Bye, guys.